Alibaba stock. Stock to buy now. Price to $500. Baba stock. Hello, guys. Welcome to Stacking Stocks, and thanks for tuning in today. We're elated to bring you today's content. In our previous session, we discussed the performance of AMC in the stock market. Hopefully, you didn't miss that. Well, today we'll look at the place of Alibaba in the stock market. Can Alibaba hit $500? Let's find out. We can't really say that everyone is rushing to own Alibaba shares. So why are we saying that? We think that it's a battleground stock. Some see Alibaba as a perfect opportunity, while others think that there are too many risks involved. Remember, every cloud has a silver lining, whereas every rose has a thorn. What does that mean for Alibaba stock? We believe that as much as there are a lot of opportunities, we also have risks involved. But the question is, which one outweighs the other? Here's what we think. Currently, Baba has quite a low valuation, but in the long run, you'll gain a lot if you buy the stock now. Everyone knows that Alibaba Group is a leading global high-tech name, don't you? Baba has continued to generate attractive growth, and if you're an investor, you get exposure to the high-growth Chinese consumer market. Additionally, Alibaba has also ventured into several other industries, such as cloud computing. At what point did you first interact with Alibaba? Do you think the company is worth considering as a potential investment? Despite shares declining over the last several months, we think that it's got great long-term potential. Also, it won't be shocking if the shares hit a blockbuster $500, just not in the short-term period. Maybe if we have a closer look at the Baba stock price, you'll comprehend the long-term concept. We've seen strong share price gains by Alibaba since its IPO, despite shares peaking in H2 in 2020. We've also noticed that there has been a considerable decline since then. Basically, we're talking about shares falling back to where they were about 1 year ago. It is, however, surprising that Alibaba had a flat share price performance over the last year, considering that the company continued generating robust results during that time frame. What do we mean by that? For example, Alibaba had a 64% revenue growth during the last quarter. Additionally, the company posted very strong returns of around 50% in the previous quarter. And there's even more positive stuff about Alibaba's earnings release. We established that the company managed to grow its user account by 32 million over the most recent quarter alone. Can you fathom that? It's quite impressive. The number equates to an annualized user growth rate of approximately 20%. Do you realize what that means? Alibaba's future quarters are destined for greater numbers. More users translate into higher revenues. The icing on the cake is that the strong growth rate represents the growing demand for the shopping services offered by Alibaba's platforms. That just proves to you that the market is not saturated at all. Despite growing investments in what management refers to as key growth areas, Alibaba has also been able to grow its EBITDA by 25% year over year. This is an attractive growth pace. And that's not even the best part of it. We established that Alibaba's income from operations grew even faster. Yes, it is remarkable. Do you know the secret behind this outstanding feat? Alibaba's operating leverage is the reason behind the blockbuster growth, rising by 48% year over year when adjusted for the fine that the company had to pay during quarter one. There is still much we have to discuss before we establish whether Alibaba's stock can hit $500. For example, what's the reason behind Alibaba's weak share price performance compared to the broader market and other tech brands? We know that it's not a result of weak operating performance, but rather of an impact of multiple compressions driven by weak investor sentiment due to China's exposure and fears about regulation. If you're an active stock investor, you probably know about what befell Alibaba in China. Baba is currently trading at $220, which is quite a large discount from our price target analysis of $298. If the target is anything to go by, we anticipate a 35% share gain. And if we're correct, it means that Alibaba might as well be a great investment. What do you think? Do you have any personal analysis of the Baba stock? From our valuation standpoint, we don't think the price target is outrageous. $298 equates to about 29 times of 2021's expected net profits, or 23 times 2022's net earnings. Can Alibaba stock hit $500? Well, it all depends on your preferred time. If we're looking at a time range within a year, then Alibaba stock will most likely not hit $500. However, a price target of $300 is certainly achievable. That's what we anticipate, but it's not a guarantee. But eventually in the long run, Baba could hit $500. We prepared a couple of examples to explain our point. And here's what we know. If Alibaba were to generate earnings per share of $20 at some point and traded at an earnings multiple of 25, then shares would trade at $500. If Alibaba were to generate earnings per share of $25 and traded at a 20 times earnings multiple, then shares would trade at $500. If Alibaba were to generate earnings per share of $17 and traded at 29 times its net profits, then shares would trade at marginally below $500. As you can see, there are several scenarios capable of leading us to a $500 share price for BABA, even though some are more likely to happen than others. It depends on your target multiple. The higher the target multiple, the lower the earnings required. What does this mean for the price target? It means that the price target can be hit sooner, as cumulative earnings growth would be needed. Let's take a trip down memory lane. What was Alibaba's valuation in the past? What do we know? At 30 to 40 times net earnings, Alibaba was evidently trading at a massive premium relative to how shares are valued today, around 20 times this year's earnings. We believe that today's valuation is way too low, but then we also don't expect Alibaba to trade at 30, 35, or 40 times net profits in the near future. Due to its ever-growing scale, Alibaba will find it a little difficult to maintain its perfect growth in the coming years. That's the reason we believe that its valuation in the coming years will be lower than its past valuation. Nonetheless, we still think that shares do have some valuation expansion potential from the current earnings multiple of around 21. Thus, let's assume that shares trade at 23 times net profits in the future. Well, that still represents a huge discount versus past valuation and a considerable discount when compared to how high-tech mega firms based in the U.S. are valued. For instance, Amazon trades at 59 times this year's earnings. Is a 500 share price achievable for BABA? Assuming that the stock uses the 23 times earnings multiple, Alibaba must generate $21.70 in earnings per share to hit $500. But how long will that take? We're forecasting long-term EPS growth of around 27%, which means that it would take Alibaba about 1.5 years to grow its EPS from $15.20, which is a 2023 estimate, to our target of $21.70. Even if we assume that this is too optimistic and that growth will be just 20% in 2024 and 2025, EPS of $21.70 could be hit by the end of 2025. Remember that we're talking about a reasonable earnings multiple of 23 times net profits. So the big question is it time to buy or sell Alibaba stock? Currently, Alibaba Group is in a tight space considering the situation with its China dependency. Unless its economic growth story in China ends, the company's operations will be gravely affected. Moreover, regulators could still target the company. However, the risks don't change the fact that Alibaba generates massive profits and has a high growth rate from several long-term macro trends like growing consumer spending in China, growing e-commerce market share, and cloud computing. If you have a diversified portfolio, then BABA is definitely a great addition. Yes, the stock is a buy now item as its share price is expected to increase in the coming years, but it all depends on your risk tolerance. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for joining us here at Stacking Stocks. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.